Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and today we're going to expose the truth about why most CEOs fail. Now, here's what I mean. In the first year of business, about 20% of new businesses fail. After about 5 years, roughly 50% of businesses fail. Around 10 years, 65% of businesses fail. And after 20 years, around 82% of businesses fail. So imagine this. You're standing on the edge of a very high cliff. You've spent years climbing to get here. Every step, every decision, every late night brought you to this moment. The wind is fierce. The ground beneath you feels unstable, loose. You look down and it hits you. One wrong move could send you crashing down. That's what it feels like to be a CEO who's almost got it all together, but senses they might be missing something critical that causes all of those percentages to happen, all of those statistics to occur. The terrifying truth is, the higher you rise, the harder the fall. And most CEOs don't fall because they weren't smart. They fall because of what they couldn't see coming. So let's talk about that feeling, the weight of leadership. It's those sleepless nights, the endless decisions, the quiet moments when it's just you and the knowledge that everything, your team, your vision, your business, rests on your shoulders. No one tells you how lonely it can be at the top. You're supposed to have all the answers, but sometimes that whisper in the back of your mind gets louder. What if I'm missing something? What if I'm just one mistake away from losing it all? Right? Because up until this point, potentially if you have been an employee before, that's what you've been told. You've always had someone to tell you what to do, where your shortcomings are. But now you are the leader. You are the top. So if you aren't in control of and you aren't actively and with awareness implementing any sort of self-reflection or other sort of feedback process, how are you going to know what you can't see? When things are going well, you don't want to admit that fear, of course, about potentially losing it all. But success doesn't make you invincible. Actually, it makes you vulnerable. It blinds you to the tiny cracks, the hidden dangers, and the blind spots that could take you down. That's the thing about being in the discovery or validation stage of business. Like, at first, in the very beginning of the discovery phase, you are over the moon, you are excited, you have all this energy, you know some things, and you're hopeful about figuring out the rest. So you move forward. You move forward with more confidence than you are aware of until some event happens that causes you to realize, oh my goodness, there is something else I need to learn. There's something else I need some help. And at that point, our confidence drops, but we're actually smarter than we were before. And slowly over time, you gain that confidence back. I'm talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect here. And the thing about that is, if you want to continue to grow, you understand that there are people, places, and objects, and experiences and circumstances to learn from to gain you the knowledge you need to continue to be an effective leader. So a lot of the CEOs that fail don't have people in the trusted positions to be able to provide them with the feedback they need in order to see the blind spots. So let's talk about 3 emotional blind spots that are definitely on every failure's list. Okay? These are the ones that creep up on even the most talented CEOs. So anything that I'm saying, when I say failure or I'm talking a little bit more on the not pleasant side, I don't mean to trigger anyone or make anybody feel shame or anything. This is just a straightforward, I'm just giving you the conversation, I'm giving you the information you need to hear, and if you need to take time to absorb it, do so. That's why I love podcasts, right? So all of that being said, number 1 is the overconfidence trap. Okay, so like you've had wins. This is where you start to believe that you're in total control of what's going on. You start to underestimate risks, thinking, I've totally got this, but all it takes is one unexpected problem, one overlooked detail to knock you off course. examples of this. Sometimes they can be financial. Maybe you invested in technology or equipment with money you didn't have, and it unbalanced the books. You are unable to pay some very important bills. Obviously, that's an issue. But let's say you feel very confident with finances. Other things can happen. There are legal blind spots. There are, what else is going on locally? What's the context of the area you're in? Could any wrong move, whether it's marketing, any sort of PR, or the way you built something, some design feature you have, like, you have to make sure that any decision you make, like, it's calculated, because this is a business. Like, yes, we're passionate people doing passionate things, but like, there is a formula and a process to this to ensure that you are not being guided off course. And I'm also speaking to established business owners too, by the way, because we all have, no matter how many years we've been in business, we all get ideas about what we could potentially do to build another revenue stream or increase a process's optimization, right? Like, there's plenty of things we think that we know how to do, but if we're tinkering on something that we haven't touched, like if we haven't actually been behind a bar for a few years, then there are some things we're going to want to double check before we just start talking or changing things, because the people who are behind the bar, for example, should be the ones giving you feedback and informing your decisions. There's one way to not be blind to that spot, right? Like, having open feedback with every level of people in your company. And even if you have like hundreds of employees, create a process to make it easy for people to provide you at the very top any feedback that they want to give, right? Even if it takes, some extra steps to the process to get that information to you, that's okay. Like, I'm happy to help you build those processes, by the way, no matter how big or small your company is, because getting that feedback is huge. Then you want to get it all the way up the chain of command. You want to get feedback in all directions. You want to make it so normal. You want to make it so open, because the moment you do that, you're going to actually be very surprised. Like, you might think that a bunch of negativity is going to come through, but actually the opposite tends to happen. So there have been multiple situations in my past where I've put suggestion boxes out in a physical or digital form, and I was always like genuinely surprised to see how many positive things were coming through. People would say, here are some ideas we have to make the space better, or, hey, this person's really doing such an incredible job, and I wanted to go out of my way to let you know that, because like, this person's worth their weight in gold and they have made my life so much better. Like, or people will be like, you know what, here's something about the menu that you took away but I really miss, and I would totally, be so happy and be able to come back so much more if you could put this back on the menu. Or, here's a new suggestion. Here's what I heard about. What can you do to educate me? See, all these different things give you ideas for either optimizing an already existing revenue stream or creating a new one. So that overconfidence trap could make you blind to all these incredible ideas from the people who are saying, hey, I'm already giving you money. You know how I'll give you more money? If you do this thing. And if other people want that too, that's an official validation for a new revenue stream. So to me, it's like the most obvious winner of all of your options, because why build a business that's just there to do things to serve yourself? That would be more of like a personal service. But if you're looking to build an actual sustainable business, you want to be in that 15%, 20 years down the road that did not fail, then you need to be listening to the people in your audience, in your crew, whether they're in your employment or they've collaborated with you. Now, of course, not all feedback is good feedback, but being open to feedback allows all to come in, right? So what that means is, of course, if you're being too open and you're just like letting anyone on the whole internet, enter into your inbox, like, that's cool, because, for example, Google reviews, right, or our comment sections, we can have rules, we can have moderation for that. That's okay. But also, you need to recognize that everything that comes up, even if it seems negative, is it's just an alarm that there's something that needs to be fixed. And it's not necessarily, even if it is personal, it's also like people are reacting in some type of way because they're being triggered. And we need to figure out, okay, well, they're being triggered. What can I do to help them not be triggered? Can I either calm them down, or can I avoid that type of trigger altogether? There's ways of doing it and doubling down on what works best. And that will only happen if you don't remain overconfident, right? Always make sure you remain humble and you listen to what people need. Say thank you when they give you feedback, no matter what it's like. And, actively seek growth. Actively seek ways to improve, because that's going to allow you to be present, right? Because then you're learning a new skill. You're doing something that's very cerebral. Okay. And this will help you avoid blind spot number 2, which is the isolation pitfall. So this is where people stop asking for feedback. This is where people convince themselves that they have to figure it out alone for whatever scarce mindset reason they have. This is where people cut themselves off from the very supportive insights that could actually save them. When you're isolated, you miss the warning signs. So if you feel yourself becoming isolated, stop to ask yourself why. And this is a great example of hey, if you need to go have an office day at the spa, go ahead, bring some work with you so it counts, right? You have time for self-care. In fact, if you don't, you're going to fall into isolation. And even though isolation, we don't always end up there because of the overconfidence trap. That's why it's its own blind spot. Sometimes we end up in isolation because of tragedy. Maybe something happens, a law passes that totally ruins our ability to do business in the way that we were doing it, or a literal fire happened and it burnt down what you were doing. So now you have to start from scratch, or maybe some legal event occurred on your premises. So now you have to come back from, there's plenty of reasons for, tragedy to make you feel small or embarrassed or just defeated or empty or unable to move forward. Those are the moments that you need to reach out the most. And I would say this not just professionally, but personally too. Those are the moments where you have to lean into your people and say, hey, what is it that I can do to not feel this way and to get out of this pit, to get out of this situation? Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are the most resilient people on planet Earth. They stay curious. They move forward no matter what problem presents itself. They just find a solution. And they, even if they don't know what it is right away, they don't give up the faith or belief in themselves and their process that it won't happen, right? And that's not about confidence. That's about faith. There is a difference between confidence and faith. Confidence is you think you know everything, so you close yourself off to the process, right? Whereas faith is remaining humble in the process, staying connected, and really just keeping forward, not getting stuck in a swirl of, man, I'm burnt out and I don't know what to do. I don't know what direction I'm going. So I'm like a chicken with my head cut off, running in circles, going nowhere, super duper fast. No, we want to be able to move forward gracefully and humbly and in faith in the process, right? So that leads me to blind spot number 3, which is the burnout blind spot. This is where you're keeping everything afloat, but you're running on empty. Exhaustion clouds your judgment, dulls your creativity, and stops you from seeing the cracks before they widen into canyons. So this spot of burnout happens when we don't, again, recharge, make that a priority, take care of ourselves when we are feeling down so that we can fully recharge. But if we are staying in this mindset where we have to work constantly in order to make things work, how are we ever going to build our best, right? Because when you're tired, you don't talk right, right? Like when I look back at my podcast recordings of when I was tired and when I was full of energy, I feel the difference, and I want to always show up in my best light to be able to help others. And I know that it helps everyone feel better, and you want to keep that in mind because money is such an energetic thing. And if you are too tired to take care of it, money is going to sense that it's not going to want to hang out with you. It wants to be in a place where it can grow and prosper. And if that sounds funny to you, it's one of those things that it's a mindset that you use as a metaphor and translate it into everything you do. So if you're tired in sending an email and you come across some type of way, you're not attracting money because you might rub someone the wrong way on the other side. But if I'm talking sweet and in service and I'm trying to do my best to, accomplish the product or service for whoever in order to help them, then boom. It makes you magnetic to money because it's a pleasure to work with you. They will write a good Google review, and then someone else will see that Google review and make the decision to work with you because they've seen that and they trust the social proof. That is the energetic difference that we're talking about if you need it spelled out in literal terms. And I know that, again, faith can be difficult for some people out there who aren't in the practice of practicing it, but let me tell you, that is where your superpower is. Okay, so these 3 blind spots can cause people who are on the cliff's edge of building this enormous tower, right? And it's super small at the top, so you got to make sure it's structurally sound or else it crumbles. These 3 blind spots will help you avoid that, but beyond that, there is this moment of realization. Right? Like all of these pitfalls are avoidable. The CEOs who stumble and fall, it's not because they weren't talented or hardworking. It's because they lacked clarity. Clarity to see the dangers before they became disasters. Clarity they would have if they were listening to the feedback and they were staying connected with their community and not being overconfident. Clarity to prepare, anticipate, and adapt. You didn't come this far to be blindsided, but by what you couldn't see, right? You've worked too hard, invested too much to lose it all because of a hidden threat. But the good news is you can learn to see these dangers and you can learn how to navigate them. So imagine this. You're standing at the edge of that cliff again, but this time the ground beneath you is solid. You know exactly where the dangers are, and you're ready for them. You feel steady, confident, and supported. You're not afraid of falling because you know how to stay balanced. You know how to see the pitfalls and avoid by pivoting before they trip you up. Imagine running your business without that constant fear. Imagine knowing you have the tools, the clarity, and the confidence to handle whatever comes next. That is not a fantasy, that is a choice, and it's a choice that you can make. So that is why I'm inviting you to join me for the Why Most CEOs Fail Masterclass. Now, this is not a lecture, it's not a bunch of dry facts, it's a chance to uncover the blind spots that most CEOs miss. And we're going to learn how to protect yourself from them. If you've ever wondered, am I missing something important? This is your opportunity to find out. Inside of this workshop masterclass, we'll be delving into the hidden pitfalls, the emotional traps, and the tools you need to lead with clarity and confidence. You've built something amazing, so do not let hidden blind spots tear any of it down. So go ahead and take a look at the description. There's a link there in order to gain access to this masterclass. And please make sure you are there because you did not come this far to trip at the finish line. I absolutely cannot wait to see you there. So let's make sure you're one of the CEOs who doesn't just survive, but actually thrives. So until next time, please take care, stay steady, and keep building your vision. As always, if you need anything, just let me know.